So I've played a lot of chess in my life, and I've seen a lot of weird games, but a couple days ago I played a game that was the weirdest one I've seen in a very long time. It featured 3 different potential en passants, a king hunt where my king was running across the board in front of my pawns instead of behind my pawns, a rook sacrifice, and a streak of moves where I made 8 mistakes in a row. So in this video, I'm just going to analyze the game and show you what happened. I think you're going to enjoy it. Now, before we start, real quick, I know some of my subscribers are relatively new to chess. So as a reminder, en passant is when your pawn is on the 5th rank if you're white. So e4, let's say e5. My pawn is now on the 5th rank. If black plays a pawn up 2 spaces and it lands side by side my pawn, I can still capture it, just like that. So it's just like if he would have moved, if he were to only move the pawn 1 space, I could capture it. Same thing with en passant. If they move it 2 spaces, you can capture it just like that. You only get 1 chance to do that. If you wait another move, then it goes away. But that's what en passant is. And the same thing could happen over here. En passant would be like this. So keep that in mind as we look at this game. You're going to see it several times. All right, so here's the game. It was a 3-minute game, and I am going to leave these little symbols on that show you, what the moves were, if it was a book move or a good move, bad move, whatever, just because I think it's pretty funny when I get to the streak where there was like 8 mistakes in a row. I want you to be able to see that. So I'm going to leave those on. We had the Sicilian, and he played e6, which makes me really sad because I always like to play the bishop e5 lines, and I can't do that against e6, so I had to do something else. I played b3, and this is something that I'm experimenting with. Sometimes I have good success with it. Sometimes, like this game, I don't. And I'm going to get to the part where I made a big mistake pretty early on. So right here, this is fine. I played c4. I'm attacking his knight. What I failed to realize is that he has this move bishop b4 check. And at first glance, I thought that I was losing a piece if I tried to, like, let's say, block with the knight. Okay, if I block the check, I was thinking to myself, well, he's got 2 pieces lined up on my knight, and I only have the bishop defending it. He's just going to take my knight and I'm going to lose a piece. That's actually not true, because if he takes my knight, I can take his knight. And so I'm not losing a piece. I'm just really making a trade. So this would have been fine for me, but I completely missed that. I was playing a little bit too fast, and in my head I thought, oh, that's just really unfortunate. I'm going to lose my knight if I try to block. Only thing to do is move my king forward. So not a great move, and this is where the king hunt begins. He plays knight to f4, and you can see that my king's cut off from going back or sideways. The knight cuts off here, so really I have to choose between these 2 squares. So I went to f3. All right, so he played knight g6. He's lining up on this pawn, so he's got 2 attackers. So I figured I would trade here and defend it with my bishop. He captured, and I played king to g3. So I'm just trying to hide somewhere with my king. And then we have b6, and now we have bishop to e2, and this is the start of my 8-move streak where I make 8 mistakes in a row. So in my mind, I was thinking bishop e2 seems like a logical move because I'd like to go to f3 and create a skewer on the queen and the rook. So it looked like a good plan in my mind. The issue is black can actually play queen to e4. He didn't play this in the game, but if he does this, I'm getting mated here. He has 2 different threats, and the knight is controlling here, the queen's coming in, he also has the bishop that can come in later. There's nothing for me to do. I'm completely losing here. If he would have played that, it's just over. But he didn't see that. He played f5, okay, which is a missed win because of that reason. And this is the first moment in the game where there's an en passant. So if I wanted to, I could capture this pawn like this. Now I decided against it. I went ahead and went with my plan of creating the skewer, and at this point I thought I was doing okay. I was thinking that I'm going to win some material here, and felt like my king was all right. And then he played f4, fine. I moved my king over, and I thought I was pretty safe, and he played d5. And again, this is en passant number 2, right? I have the ability to capture here with my pawn. So I went ahead and did it because in my mind I'm thinking, well, for one, I'm opening up the attack again on the queen and rook. And I saw that I was going to be put in check if he pushed this pawn forward. I thought that I could play g4, and then if he en passants me, I would just capture with my king and everything looked okay. I would still, at the end of all that, have this skewer on the queen and rook. So that's why I played that. He did play their check, and so I did play g4, and now we have en passant possibility number 3. If he takes here, that's the 3rd time in this game that we've had an en passant situation. So that's in and of itself is pretty crazy. I don't think I've seen a game that has so many en passants, at least not in a while. And that's what I was expecting. I thought he was going to do that, and then I was going to take with my king to keep this, attack going. Now it turns out this is bad for me. I'm still completely losing here. I'm looking at the engine over here. It's -6. But he didn't see that, and so he decided to not take the third en passant here. So he played e4, which was a blunder, but not really obvious why it was such a blunder. So in my mind, I was thinking, I want to take this, create the skewer, and if he takes me, I'd like to play rook e1 and pin his queen to his king. Problem is, his bishop is controlling the square. And so in my head, I thought, all right, let me play a3, and if he, let's say, retreats the bishop or goes by here or something, I can either block it off, or once it leaves this diagonal, I could do that plan, right? Capture, bring my rook over. I just failed to realize that he just takes my bishop. He doesn't have to even move that, right? He just takes here. And then I took, which was also a blunder, and the reason is not that taking a piece is bad, right? Normally taking pieces is a good thing to do. The reason it's a blunder in this case is because my king's about to get mated. It's always better to stop a checkmate even if you don't win a piece or something, and so that's why the engine is telling me that it's, it's a blunder. So he castled, which was a missed win. We'll go back. If he would have played h5, you can see that he's threatening to capture here, which is just checkmate, right? It's going to be a discovered attack with the rook. The check's going to be putting, the pawn's going to be putting me in check, and I can't go anywhere because the pawns are controlling everything. And there's really, I can delay it a little bit, like I have rook e1 check, and I can just do a couple checks, but there's no way to stop the mate. So we'll go back to what actually happened in the game, though. So he castled, and I played queen to d5. In my mind, I was thinking normally when your king's under attack, the best thing to do is trade pieces, especially queens. If you can trade queens off the board, your chances of surviving the attack go up dramatically. And so I thought queen d5 made a lot of sense. Turns out in this case, it's not. And so he captured it. I took back. And even though if you look at the material right now, I have 2 rooks. He has 2 rooks, knight and a bishop, knight and a bishop, 2, 4, 6, 7. I have 7 pawns, 2, 4. He has 6 pawns. So I'm up a pawn. But the reason the position is so bad for me is because I'm in a mating net. So these pawns are controlling these 2 squares. My king can't escape. His knight is controlling this square. My king can't move at all, right? I can't go here because my own pawn. There's no way I can get my king out of this bad situation. And on top of that, none of my pieces are really in a position to help defend my king. The only thing that's doing anything is this pawn, right? And so he played h5, which is the best move. You can see he's threatening to just take it, and that's going to be checkmate. So the only move I could really play is rook to g1 to defend this pawn. And now at least if he takes it, either way I can sacrifice my rook and stay alive, right? So now he played rook to f5, and this is a missed win because there's actually a checkmate here. So there's actually a mate in 4, and I'll go ahead and show you this one because it's kind of a difficult one to see. But h takes g4 check, and then I was going to sacrifice my rook. But instead of taking it, what he can do is play rook to f5. And the idea is he's going to come over here, which again is checkmate. And the only thing I can do is try to prevent that with rook h4. But then he has rook h5 check anyway to check with the bishop, not the rook. And the only thing I can do is play d7, and he just takes it, checkmate. So really nasty checkmate here with these pawns, doubled pawns, just, trapping my king, really. And then this is pinned, so I can't do anything with that. Game over. But that being said, even though it was a missed win, it was still a pretty brilliant move because he's putting his rook on a square that my pawn can just capture it. But if I capture it, well, then I'm just mated with the bishop, right? And then I have to block here, and I'm mated like this. I mean, look at this checkmate. Like, these 3 pawns are just like crazy. It's crazy. So really nice move, even though it was wasn't good. He missed the checkmate. It was a really good idea, right? I can't take the rook, and if I take this, well, then I'm mated here from the double check. Sorry. So I was like, well, the only thing I can do is bring my knight over to try to take this pawn, because once I get rid of that pawn, then my king can run and hide or run over here, like actually do something, right? This pawn is really stopping my king from moving. So knight there, he played rook over, and then I did capture it. And then takes, And I knew I was going to lose a piece, but I mean, I had to do it to try to escape, right? And so captures, captures, takes. And after all that, you know, we get this position where, okay, he's got 4 pawns, I have 2, 4, 6, and I have, you know, 1 piece down. But the issue really is that my pawns are double isolated, and you're going to see what happens shortly after. These were just easy targets, and he ended up just picking them off because they couldn't help each other and defend each other, right? If these pawns would have been like 1, 2, 3, 4, where they could work together, the game would have been much different. But because of that, and I was low on time, so I wasn't really making some of the best moves, you're going to see how these pawns just got picked off. There goes one, and then there goes the other one, and then I just blundered a fork there. I mean, I was running out of time. So, yeah, pretty much just game over. I ran out of time there. So, really weird game. Multiple en passants, a king hunt, 8 different mistakes in a row, a rook sacrifice, a lot of cool things. I hope you guys enjoyed that game. Let me know if you've ever played a game that's had more potential en passants than 3. I don't remember ever playing one just from the top of my head. Doesn't mean that they don't happen. So if you've seen one, I'd be interested to hear about it. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that game and maybe learned a thing or two as well. But as always, thanks for watching. Stay sharp, play smart, and take care.